Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the pop culture news here on The Experience. We got a lot going on, so let's jump right in. Sigourney Weaver is in talks to head back into space. Now, the actress who's starred in both the Aliens and the Ghostbusters franchises and has even hopped into the MCU and been part of Avatar, is now in talks to become part of the Star Wars universe by joining the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Now, Jon Favreau is directing the film, and it's slated to start shooting later this year, and also it'll be in theaters May 22nd of 2026. And while it's not known what character Weaver will be playing, it is reported to be a key role. Now, this will be the first Star Wars film to hit theaters since Star Wars Rise of Skywalker back in 2019, which we know didn't really sit well with the fans in a lot of ways, but it made $1 billion worldwide. So, give or take, right? But, The Mandalorian has been the most positive received thing in the Star Wars universe since then. That, of course, was created by Favreau and Dave Filoni. So, we'll have to see what character she'll end up playing and if she ends up with some Mandalorian armor. Or if she, I don't know, ends up working with Moff Gideon. There is also news. Now, see, this news kind of feeds into some other news in that with the new Mandalorian movie coming out, we know Pedro Pascal has to be part of that, but we also know that he's got the Fantastic Four coming up. Well, it turns out that this tells us that the Fantastic Four is going to begin shooting by the end of July. And that'll give them 1 year because it's supposed to be out in July of 2025. So that's going to be a pretty quick time pace. But that also explains why we're suddenly hearing of castings of Paul Walter Hauser, John Malkovich, and Ralph Ineson. You know, but the thing with Pedro Pascal, is he doesn't have to be on the set all the time for The Mandalorian because they shoot most of the scenes with him in the armor with body doubles, Lateef Crowder or Brendan Wayne, depending on what the scene is, and then he does the voiceover later on. Lateef Crowder does a lot of the stunt action stuff, and Brendan Wayne does a lot of the gunfighting stuff. Brendan Wayne is the grandson of John Wayne. So that's why Mandalorian has such a good kind of gunslinger vibe, because they got one of the classics. Okay, moving on. The Guardians of the Galaxy could have been very different because according to actor Joel Edgerton, he actually auditioned for the role of Star-Lord, but didn't understand it. He didn't quite get it. He said that Star-Lord is a good one, actually, because I, unlike Chris Pratt, didn't quite sort of understand the tone in the way he did and the way those guys did. And I wasn't really sure how I could be part of that tone. And I truly think that the world is a much better place that I'm not Star-Lord, even if I had the opportunity or I did a good enough audition, because it is the way it's meant to be. And there was never a real conversation that it would have definitely been me. It was just, I had the opportunity to try an audition. I just didn't quite understand it. Now, Gunn auditioned a lot of people to play Star-Lord and even passed on Chris Pratt once before the casting director kept bringing him back and bringing him back. And Pratt ended up going on to star in 2 sequels and 2 Avengers movies, so that's pretty good. We are saddened by the passing of B-movie legend Roger Corman. At the age of 98, he was a director and producer of hundreds of low-budget films and was basically discovered a ton of the people in the industry today. Jack Nicholson, Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro. He gave Ron Howard his first directing job. Gail Ann Hurd worked for Roger Corman. Now, Variety reported that he died on May 9th, surrounded by his family, and he had been asked previously how he wanted to be remembered, and Corman had said, "I was a filmmaker, just that." Now, he specialized in fast-paced, low-budget genre films. including horror, action, sci-fi, and even the occasional family film. But some of the movies that he's best known for, like Little Shop of Horror, Boxcar Bertha, Machine Gun Kelly, Fall of the House of Ushers, Mask of the Red Death, Dementia 13, Eat My Dust, and the last movie he directed, Frankenstein Unbound. And in 1994, he's famously he produced um, a Fantastic Four movie with Bern Eichinger, with the idea of just making it and then shelving it so they could hold on to the rights to the franchise. So even though it was never officially released, there are a lot of bootleg copies out there that show the film. And while it was low budget and not anywhere near the quality of the stuff we see nowadays, there was a certain heart to it, you know, and they definitely understood what the Fantastic Four was. Moving on, recently we've been seeing a rise of the number of insiders leaking information and photos for upcoming films. And while this has been going on for years, one in particular has definitely hit a nerve with Marvel Studios, so much so that they've gone to the courts to try to force Instagram to reveal the true identity behind the person who runs the account. Can we get some toast? Now, Can We Get Some Toast is not the most accurate scooper. Maybe he has a 10% accuracy rating if we're being generous. But something he posted, and we're not sure exactly what it was enough to get Marvel's VP of Global Security and Content Protection to get a subpoena issued to Instagram. Now, we do know that it pertains to the film Captain America Brave New World, and the film is already dealing with leaks due to images from upcoming McDonald's toys and stuff like that. So we've seen certain characters that either confirmed that weren't officially in there, or we've even seen some that that weren't even talked about. So will they still be part of it? We'll have to see, but the leaks are getting bad, and now Marvel's going after, can we have some toast? DC and Max have released a brief synopsis for a behind-the-scenes special for the upcoming Creature Commandos animated series, the one that's going to tie directly into the DCU, the one being put together by James Gunn and Peter Safran. The synopsis reads, from executive producer and writer James Gunn, Creature Commandos is the upcoming Max original animated event series based on DC characters and produced by DC Studios and Warner Brothers Animation, which follows Amanda Waller as she forms a Black Ops team out of monstrous prisoners. Prepare for an in-depth look from Rick Morales, the supervising producer, and Balak Yevs, supervising director, into the artistry and creative process behind this highly anticipated series, kicking off a new era of storytelling in the DCU. Now, it's interesting that they're already hyping a behind-the-scenes video for a series that hasn't even had a trailer yet. But, that kind of shows a lot of confidence. But what we did learn recently is that Frank Grillo, who's going to be voicing Rick Flag Sr. in the Creature Commandos, is also going to be doing the same role live action in Peacemaker Season 2. So that was something Gunn had talked about, wanting to be able to have the same people. So, if you're going to voice the character, you're also going to play it live action. During a recent press tour, going back to Chris Pratt said, during a recent press tour for Garfield, Chris Pratt was asked if it would be likely for him to return to the MCU as Star-Lord, or more likely for him to join his friend James Gunn and play a role in the DC Universe. Now, this question, of course, is prompted by the tag at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 that said Star-Lord would return, and Gunn's habit of using the same actors in his movies. Pratt responded saying, well, it probably makes more sense that I would be Star-Lord again, but anything is possible, and especially with James over at DC, maybe there's something that would be right over there, maybe both. How about both? Let's do both. I think it's 100% both. Now, the tag makes it seem like Marvel does have plans for Peter Quill, But Pratt's answer sounds like he was just having some fun with the question and not that there's anything specific going on at DC yet. We have an interesting report that Mark Strong from Green Lantern, Sherlock Holmes, and the Kingsman series has signed on for a role in the upcoming Max series, The Penguin. Now, the series is from Matt Reeves and spins out of the Batman film with star Colin Farrell reprising his role as Oswald Cobblepot. Now, the news of Strong joining the series comes from an odd source, Strong's personal trainer. Giacomo Farsi was asked if he had worked on the Penguin series through a social media post, and he replied, "Yes, I trained Mark for it." There has been some speculation for a while about Strong being part of the series, as his name currently appears on the IMDb listing as him playing Carmine Falcone, but there's no other confirmation. Now, this is all really weird because Falcone was played in the movie by John Turturro. And if they're keeping Colin Farrell, why wouldn't they just bring Turturro back? Even though the character died in the film, maybe he's coming back to do some flashback footage or something. But why wouldn't you just stick with Turturro? And how do you come up with Mark Strong to replace John Turturro? I just don't see it. But either way, it does look like Mark Strong has some kind of connection to the Penguin. Now, could he be a different character? Absolutely. But that's what we're hearing. And then finally, remember when we heard that Sydney Sweeney was going to play Barbarella in an upcoming film? And then talks kind of died down. Well, now that she's had that hit romantic comedy, has been on Saturday Night Live, and is really buzzed about her again, the studio is moving forward by talking to Jane and Honey Goldman about penning the script for the new Barbarella film, and they're in talks with Edgar Wright to direct it. Now, Wright is currently deep in pre-production for the Running Man reboot, which is going to star Glenn Powell, Sydney Sweeney's cast member, or co-star in Anything But You. So that's kind of ironic. But so this won't be like the very next film he does. He's got this Running Man movie coming up. But bringing the Goldmans in is a sign that they're very serious about moving forward with it, because Jane Goldman has started a lot of big franchises, including the reboot of the X-Men franchise when they brought in Michael Fassbender and McAvoy to be the Xavier and Magneto. That was Jane Goldman. Also, Jane Goldman was the one that wrote the scripts for the Kingsman Secret Service for Matthew Vaughn. So the fact that she's come on board with her daughter, Honey, means that they're serious about getting this thing rolling. So we'll have to see how that works out. But Barbarella is an interesting franchise, and Sydney Sweeney is a pretty good choice to take over the Jane Fonda role. All right, guys, that's the news for today. Stick around for Minute to Skim It and Kicking It with Henri here on The Experience. Have a good one.